Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for clicking on the video. My name is Carter. I'm your host. This is Edge Mindset. We talk about knives. We discuss knives. We hang out. We bond, right? That's what we do here, hopefully. I don't know. Thanks for subscribing and liking if you've done that and hitting that bell notification. That really helps me out. We're taking a look at another Crescent Edges knife. This one's still pretty wild, but not as wild as this guy right here. This is the Crescent Edges Eternal-Gladiator. Okay, I got to make sure to get that out. I struggle with the names on these for some reason, which is odd because they're words. Usually I struggle with the ones where it's the Kubi PX19AB0. These ones actually have words, but it gets kind of confusing because Crescent Edges gives the colorway a specific name. So this one, really the model of this is just the Eternal, right? The Crescent Edges Eternal. Gladiator is the name given to this specific colorway with the bronze and the shred carbon fiber. So every colorway has a different name. So this one is the Spade is the model name, but the colorway, and this is kind of funny, the colorway is Eggplant Emoji Slasher is the name of this particular colorway, which is the purple there with the DLC coated blade. So gets a little confusing. We're just going to call it the Eternal from now on to keep it simple. Now, at the time of filming this video, these are still available in a few different colorways, including this guy right here. So I don't know exactly when this video is going to get uploaded. I am going to try to upload it sooner rather than later in case people see this and they want to buy one. Now, I don't have a discount code or any affiliation with the company, but, I like to support fellow knife designers and makers. So, I want to see them succeed. So I'm willing to help them out and drive business to their websites for people that are interested. Let's do some boring specs, man. Let's try not to fall asleep. Let's take a look at some of the specs here, give you an idea of what you're looking at. So it is, like little over 3.5 inches blade length, almost 3 3/4. 3 3/4 inch cutting edge, we'll put it that way. About 4 inches to the pivot, center of the pivot, I believe. I don't know, it's kind of hard. We'll talk about that here in a minute. It's got a very interesting pivot design on it. A little over 8 inches, 8 1/4 about inches overall length. Weight on this bad boy, weight on this guy is 4.1, so not bad for a knife of that size. Of course, you got the titanium, you've got all kinds of milling going on, you've got carbon fiber inlays, all kinds of things that help bring that weight down. Let's compare it to the Spade here. Pretty much the exact same length overall. The Spade kind of seems bigger because there's so much more material, but if you go tip to tip, butt to butt, they are the exact same length. Let's compare it to Paramilitary 2. You can see right there, pivot to pivot. Very similar, pretty much the exact same size there as well. One thing I've noticed is there is so many knives in this size, right? Like this 3.5 inch blade, man. It is like the most popular. Once again, XM18 3.5 inch, almost the exact same overall size on that one as well. And I'm guessing that the Medford Slim Midi, once again, close, but not exactly the same. Not exactly the same. Now, I will point out here, you can see how good the blade to handle ratio is on this Slim Midi. You can see how the blades are almost the same length, right? Especially if you're going pivot to tip. But then the handle length is a lot shorter on this Slim Midi here, meaning you've got longer blade to handle than what you have going on here. That's because Greg, that's his number one thing is blade to handle ratio. He wants the knife to look like it's a fixed blade. It's a fixed blade, at least in terms of proportions. Now, you may say, oh, well, that's amazing. Why doesn't everybody do that? Well, there's downsides. In order to do that, you have to move this pivot all the way up, and that ends up moving the lock face really high up as well. Now, on this particular model, the lock face is actually completely protected, but a lot of Greg's models, his lock face sticks out over the scales, which, anyways, we're not going to get into that. Just kind of an interesting side note there. We've got a two-tone, but barely a two-tone Magnacut blade. So you can see, I don't know if you can see, the flats right there are an acid Stonewash, but the flats are so little. They're just little baby, as well as the inside chamfers of that hole right there are also acid Stonewash, which is pretty cool. I mean, really just acid washed on the inside, because the stonewashing only contacted the flats, you know, because of physics and such. Double ground blade, it is only sharp on this side though, unfortunately, but that's for reasons, right? You can't have this be sharp. That would be bad. It is amazing when makers are able to do a true double edge folding knife, because the amount of engineering to get that to work where this edge is not poking out and will cut you, but also where the handle isn't so big that it looks ridiculous, which is why the reason the arch nemesis, oh my gosh, arch nemesis, the arch nemesis from Sharp Eye Design is such a beloved design, because he's figured out how to do it. He figured out how to stuff a double-edged blade into a handle where it won't cut you, but it doesn't look goofy. What's another tangent, man? This is tangent video. So you can imagine where this knife gets its name from, right? Gladiator, Eternal, because this looks like a gladiator style knife, right? How it has the recurve here and it swells out and then it comes down to an armor piercing tip. Very, very cool. Now, is this a practical blade shape? Absolutely not. It is really thick behind the edge. It is sharp. It is done extremely well. This is made by Riot, just like all of the other Crescent edge knives, as far as I'm aware. But this one is made by Riot. It is done very, very well. It can cut things, right? It will. I've tested it. It can cut things, but it's not a slicer. You know, normally I like to talk about how good recurves are at holding material in the center and doing push cuts. But I can't really say that about this one, because it's not meant for that, right? This is meant for, it's primarily a showpiece, in my opinion, right? It's a very cool, well-made, premium material showpiece knife that's cool to have in the collection. But it is practical enough that you could throw it in the pocket and you can use it. You can use it to open packages or cut string or whatever it is you need to do walking around town. Now, if you have a bunch of cardboard or something of that nature you need to go through, I wouldn't recommend picking this knife. You know, I don't think you would. This wouldn't be your top choice. But primarily, it's a visual treat. I mean, look at these two cool quillions right here. It just kind of takes the design language of a gladiator sword and turns it into a folding knife, but then adds additional design language on top of it, right? It didn't take the lazy route and just take the blade shape and throw it in a handle. It does so many cool things. I mean, look at this cool crescent pivot right here. You know, I assume that ties back to the name. See how it's concave? It actually, that is just so freaking cool. Then, of course, on this side, you just have normal pivot access. So it doesn't hinder any of the takedown or maintenance of the knife. But on the show side, you see very little hardware. You've got one screw right here, which matches the color of the inlay of the shred carbon fiber right there, which, by the way, is done so well, you can feel no gaps. It is smooth as, I was going to say something. I'm not going to say that now. I'm not going to say it. It's too crude. Too crude. There could be kids watching. I'm not going to say it, but it is really smooth. You can feel no gaps. Done extremely well. The shred carbon fiber is awesome. It lightens it up. It adds contrast. Really cool. But yeah, you know, like, this is well thought out, design-wise. Well thought out. You know, made sure that this is a black pivot screw so that it matches the shred carbon fiber right there. I like how this pocket clip fits right in between. Like, that is the exact same width, right? This was not an afterthought. That was designed on purpose so that this pocket clip matched the exact same width and the swell, right? See how this widens right here, and so does the pocket clip. Just matches, right? It just matches. Now, in my original video, I did mention that I don't understand why they did the lock cutout on the outside, because it does kind of, like, for a knife that's so visually driven, why is this cut out on the outside? Now, I did watch a video recently from Lefty EDC, who's getting some knives made by Riot, and they are pushing back pretty hard to have him choose a lock cutout on the outside. So that could have been the same situation here. I think Riot doesn't like doing the inside cutout. Assumably, is that a word? Presumably, because it's just harder for them in terms of how they machine the parts and where they have to, affix it to fixtures and things like that, I guess. I don't know, but it would have been cool to have this on the inside so that it was just all smooth right there. Absolutely cool. The handle kind of swells out. Is it the most comfortable? No. Is it terrible? No. I mean, once again, this is not a knife you're picking for heavy use. So I'm trying to make sure and look at this through the lens of like, is it a functional knife? Is it something you could use? But at the same time, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about like ergos and hotspots, because if you're expecting this knife to fit that usability, utilitarian style, you're way off base. I'm assuming people looking at this knife understand that it's primarily knife art, right? It's knife art, and it's done with high quality functional materials, but it's not a utilitarian knife, and I don't think anyone's expecting it to be. But I just want to make sure that's clear. Titanium hardware that matches the bronze coloration of the titanium scales. You do have some jimping on the cutout with some nice access there, some chamfering on the inside. Lock bar insert like you would expect. You can see lightning pockets are in the titanium as well, which is a nice touch, because this is a knife where you could say, do we have to do that extra milling? Because you essentially have milling on the outside here. We'll take a look at the butt here. You can see how it really shrinks down to pretty thin titanium. And then in the middle, you've got these big pockets with carbon fiber. And so the extra milling pockets are, pretty shallow because there's just not that much material in there. But they went ahead and did that extra machining, took that extra time to bring that weight down, however small amount that it did. You've also got a nice opening hole on the pocket clip, which kind of mirrors the opening on the blade here, which goes all the way through. You've also, didn't just do a flat clip. You've got these angled surfaces here on both sides of that pocket clip, which matches the angles that are on the scale here. Very, very cool. Got a backspacer here, little half backspacer. That one's pretty plain, just stonewashed black that kind of comes around here. Helps protect the blade. All in all, it's just a cool looking knife with great action, running on bearings, made by Riot, right? All standard stuff. Riot knows what they're doing. You can open this a few different ways. The primary one is to use this flipper back here, but you can also put your thumb up on this front thing and kind of front flip it, but it's not like, it's not like a normal front flipper. It actually works the best. Now, this is an interesting concept, right? Normally, I wish I had a front flipper. Oh, I do have a front flipper right here. Right here. So this is your normal front flipper style, and it's primarily driven for your thumb. Now, if you're good and squirrely, you can do it with your index finger. This is always the weakest way for me to do a front flipper. The thumb gives me more power. But on this one, it's actually the opposite. My index is the best one to open this with that front flipper as opposed to my thumb. And the reason for that is thumb is best for doing the radial motions, right? Because your thumb can move this way pretty intuitively, right? And that's what you're doing with the normal front flipper. You're actually putting pressure on it and you're moving it back. You're kind of doing a radius. Whereas with the index finger, it's a little bit harder. It's not as strong to move your finger in that direction. It takes a little bit more muscle memory, and you've got to build up it's just more difficult. You got to build up that motion. But with this one, all you're doing is flicking up. You're flicking up with your index finger, and it just opens. And so it's a different mechanic. So this is like a new category of front flipper. It is, instead of a thumb front flipper primarily, it's an index finger front flipper primarily. And then the thumb is actually kind of more uncomfortable because you're kind of getting on that edge here and you're kind of just flicking it out. But then in order for me to do that effectively, I got to choke up quite a bit, and then this will sometimes hit my index finger. But with the index, it works very, very well. No way to get into this cutout here to open it up, that's completely hidden. So yeah, it's either a rear flipper or an index front flipper on this guy. But very, very cool. If you're looking for kind of an interesting piece, it just looks fantastic. You know, it's a level below the wildness of the spade, right? Like this is the true, like, crazy knife design. And I know a lot of people don't like it because it's not very practical, and, you know, knives are tools and that kind of thing. And I kind of get that. And if that's, you know, your style of usage, that's cool. But for me, I like to collect interesting pieces. And this is the type of knife, you're just not going to see it again. I don't think we're going to see another run of the spade. It's just a little too out there. And I think most of the people that are interested in something like this, you know, are able to get it with the first run. And there's probably just not going to be the appetite for another one. So if you're wanting a wild piece, jump on it now. I don't think you're going to get another chance. I'm not sure on the Eternal if, you know, there's a chance of another run or not. But it's not quite as wild as the spade design, but it is still pretty out there and very, very cool and very, very sexy. And like I said, at the time of recording this, there are some still available in a few different colorways. So if you want one, I wouldn't hesitate. Go pick it up. No affiliation. I don't get any kickbacks or anything. But you know, just trying to help you out if you want one. All right, guys, I'm out. Talk to you later. See you.